This is the ABC 10 News Streamline. Everything you need to know today in under 10 minutes. President Trump and other world leaders have now signed a symbolic agreement to try and bring peace to the Middle East. But missing from that agreement were Israel and Hamas. There are still questions as it's unclear what was signed. President Trump says it would spell out a lot of rules and regulations. This comes as phase one of the ceasefire agreement was met when Hamas released all living Israeli hostages and the bodies of the deceased hostages. This was in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Now the focus shifts to what's next. When asked about phase two, President Trump would not commit to a two-state solution for the Palestinians.
I'm not talking about single state or double state or two-state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
President Trump says Hamas has been given approval to rearm to serve as a Palestinian police force for a period of time. And Monday was filled with emotional reunions. Families of the hostages were finally reunited with their loved ones after more than 2 years. ABC 10 News reporter Perla Shaheen spoke to some San Diegans, helping share the stories of those who survived the Hamas attack back on October 7th.
Two women in San Diego have spent the last couple years connecting with survivors of the Hamas attack in Israel. I spoke to them about their work and how it's made them feel closer to the hostages who were just released. The remaining living Israeli hostages finally returned home to their families on Monday.
It's just absolutely incredible. You can't make this up, this joy, you know?
I was, in fact, watching the news probably until like 4 a.m. Until I physically couldn't stay awake anymore.
The Jewish and Israeli community in San Diego feeling pure joy and relief.
We can finally,
We've been waiting for 2 years. I think the entire country couldn't breathe.
Darha Levi Feldman and Shoshana Rice started a nonprofit called Faces of October 7th just weeks after the attack, inviting Israeli survivors to the United States to share their experience of that day.
To be able to connect with someone personally who survived a terrorist massacre like that and watch them stand strong and speak, it's so powerful.
Over the past 2 years, the nonprofit flew survivors to hundreds of college campuses and communities across the country. Crowds listening to their stories were also reminded of those who were killed and those who remained in captivity.
The survivors kept on saying we could not start recovering until the last person will be home, because it could have been them. It could have been any of us.
Feldman and Rice say even though the living hostages were released, their work isn't done yet.
We still need to bear witness to what happened on October 7th.
So that others can understand why these moments hold deep meaning and reassurance for their communities. Perla Shaheen, ABC 10 News.
From coast to coast, severe weather is hitting millions of Americans today. In Arizona, a sudden, powerful storm known as a microburst left more than 130 people without a home. Strong winds ripped the roofs off of buildings. Several severely damaging several apartment complexes, knocking out power for hours. Residents describe the storm like being in the middle of a tornado. In Southern California, people are getting ready to be hit by heavy rain as the storm moves in from the Pacific. Mudslides are a big concern in LA, where burn scars from January's deadly wildfires could give way. People are putting out sandbags, setting up retaining walls, and clearing gutters. Some mandatory evacuations have been ordered. In Massachusetts, a nor'easter brought dangerous waves to the coast. This rescue caught on camera after reports of a man overboard in frigid, choppy waters. People on a nearby ferry spotted the man and helped rescuers keep an eye on him. The Coast Guard was able to lift him to safety. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to be okay. And at least 64 people have died after torrential rain triggered floods and landslides in Mexico. Search efforts are now underway for dozens of people still missing. Thousands of troops have been deployed. Rescuers are struggling to reach more than 80 towns that are still inaccessible.
Today, new tariffs take effect on lumber, kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and wood furniture as the threat of even more tariff hikes between the U.S. and China escalates. The two countries today have also began charging new port fees on each other's ships. Chinese analysts accuse the U.S. of starting this latest tit for tat last month by imposing new restrictions on what China can export. They say that's why China recently tightened restrictions on rare earth minerals. President Trump responded with a 100% tariff on Chinese imports by November 1st. He's set to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping this month in hopes of de-escalating the situation. New research says the more time that preteens spend on social media, the lower their scores on reading and memory tests are. That's according to a new study in the Journal of the American Medical Association. It says even just 1 hour a day on social media lowered test scores by 1 or 2 points for students ages 9 to 13, and more time saw an even bigger drop of 4 to 5 points.
We are essentially putting an entire generation of kids in an uncontrolled experiment with the amount of social media that's out there, with how addictive these phones are, and all of it ties together. And who knows what could potentially happen in 5, in 10, in 20 years.
As a parent, this is pretty concerning. Tech companies are defending, however, the safeguards for kids online. Instagram says its new restrictions blocks content considered inappropriate for minors on the platform.
We thought there might have been like an earthquake before we realized that that was just him hitting it.
Witness video captures the moment a gorilla at the San Diego Zoo slammed into the glass of its enclosure on Saturday.
It's kind of scary. They definitely were, the people there were quick though. They had like 3 security guards.
The gorilla cracked the first layer of tempered glass in its enclosure. The San Diego Zoo saying it happened on Saturday and identifying the gorilla as 10-year-old Western lowland gorilla Denny, who recently joined a bachelor troupe at the zoo. They said Denny was not injured and the gorillas will be cared for behind the scenes until the panel of glass is replaced. We spoke to a companion animal expert who says primates are really smart, and this could have been a reaction to any number of external stimuli.
It may not necessarily have been an aggressive reaction. It may have been one of excitement. It may have been one of exploration.
In any case, Dr. Peter says it's a good reminder to make sure to be respectful of animals while they are in their enclosure.
I feel like if he would have hit that again though, that would have been like a whole nother story, you know.
Emily Coffey, ABC 10 News.
There was an unusual rescue in Michigan when a deer got stuck in the middle of a freeway. The 4-point buck was hit by a car and then stuck in the concrete barrier separating the north and southbound lanes. Look at it wedged in the crack there. The rescue took about an hour. The deer didn't have any serious injuries, just some bruising. It was released shortly after the rescue. SpaceX launched an hour-long test flight Monday evening of its Starship mega rocket. Video captures the moment the super heavy rocket booster landed. It splashed down into the Gulf near the launch facility in Texas after successfully separating from the Starship spacecraft. About an hour later, Starship crashed into the Indian Ocean. This was the 11th Starship test flight. The company's been working to develop a vehicle to complete a moon landing for NASA that's planned for 2027. That's your ABC 10 News Streamline. Everything you need to know in under 10 minutes.